Hey everybody, and welcome back to another lecture with Coding with Roby. And in this lecture, we are going to move forward with learning and understanding more about Alembic. So the first thing we need to do is open up our database.py file. And like I mentioned in the last video, we're going to be using Postgres as our SQL Alchemy database URL. So in your database.py file, make sure you have your PostgreSQL with your username and password and everything set up if you want to be using PostgreSQL. We can do the exact same thing that we're doing with Postgres with MySQL. So make sure if you want to use MySQL instead of Postgres to be using that. And lastly, SQLite 3. There is a little bit of a change you have to do where migrations won't work perfectly. So I highly recommend you stick with Postgres or MySQL. After this, we can just grab this exact string, copy it, and now let's jump down into our alembic.ini file. Here we want to scroll down until we see our SQLAlchemy.url path. Here we just want to override what there used to be and paste in our new Postgres or MySQL string. Let's save this file. And now let's go back into our project where we're going to open up our Alembic directory and open up our environment.py file. Here we need to make a couple changes to our application. The first thing is, just like we have done in a previous video, is at the very top we need to create and call our system to be able to change our append notification. So to do this, we want to type in import sys, and then right under this, we want to say sys or sys dot path dot append, and as the parameter, we're going to say 2 quotation marks and 3 dots. This will help us be able to locate files perfectly within our application. Next, right under from alembic.import context, I'm actually going to move these up so they're all touching. And right under this, I'm going to say import models. This will import our models from our models.py file. We need to do this because if we want to modify our users or our to-dos, we need to first capture the model and then be able to add to it from there. If we're creating a new table, we don't necessarily need this as much, but it's definitely a reference to this base that we need to be able to call the database. So from here, we now want to say config equals context.config, which is already here. Next, I'm going to comment out this if statement. And right under config, I'm going to type in really what this last line was of file config, config.config file name. And now right under the file config, I'm going to do another line of target metadata. Equals models.base.metadata. And down here where it says target underscore metadata is equal to none, we're going to comment that out as well. All right, and now once we have these 3 involved, that's really all we need to do for our env.py file and for our alembic.ini file. Next, let's open up our terminal and let's create our first revision. We can do this by typing in alembic revision-m and then the message that we want. So I'm going to say alembic revision-m create phone number for user column. Once we do that, we can see that it's generating our new revision under our directory of Alembic versions with our version number with create phone number for user column.py and that it's complete. So if we go back, we can see that there's a new file under versions with a version number and our message. Here we can undo our imports and see what's inside, and we can see our revision ID, which is going to match our revision ID right here, the date it was created, and some other information. So now let's switch over to our PG admin for Postgres, where I'm going to say select all from users. If we run this, we can see that I have 2 users inside our database, example user and me coding with Roby with our hash password and is active is true. Now, these are all of the columns we currently have in our users database. We have our ID, our email, username, first name, last name, hash password, and is active. We're going to create a new column here called phone number. And to do this, I am going to delete this pass in this upgrade. So this is our def upgrade and our def downgrade. And in here, I'm going to say OP, which is our Alembic add column. And then inside the parentheses, I'm going to say users, as we're going to be modifying a new column in users. And then we can say SA, which stands also for Alembic. It's an Alembic abbreviation for representing a column. So SA.column, parentheses. And then I'm going to say phone number. And we're just going to make it a string for this use case. Nullable equals true, which means now it's allowed to be null. And I'm doing just an easy use case for us to see it in action to start. Now, if we come back up here and we say Alembic upgrade with that revision number, we can see that a Alembic notification runs on our terminal running upgrade with this revision number, which is create phone number for user column. All right, well now let's go back to our database and refresh our call. Well, we can see now that there's a new column called phone number in our users model. Now this is very, very awesome stuff. As you can see, we created a new upgrade, which allows us now to be able to use a phone number within our user's application with just a couple lines of code. And now our downgrade means we want to do something if a user types in downgrade. And here we want to drop a column. So we can say op.drop column of users, comma, phone number. And now let's check and see what else we have in here. So if we do Alembic -- help, we can see all the power that we have through Alembic, at least on the absolute parent level. We can see that we have our branches, which shows current branch points, our current, which displays the current revision for a database, downgrade to revert to a previous version, which we also have the opposite, which is upgrade to a later version. We have edit, we have ensure visions, history, heads, initialization, list templates, merge, revision, show, and stamp, and a couple arguments to go along with it. But however, if we type in Alembic downgrade -1, we are now running the downgrade of creating the phone number for user column. If we now go back to our Postgres and we run this, we can see that isActiveBoolean is now the last column again. We successfully downgraded our application to no longer use phone number. And just like that, we have Alembic upgrading to use phone number and then downgrading to eliminate the phone number that we just added. However, I want to add and keep the phone number. So I'm going to go upgrade back up to the version that we created, which is going to recreate the column within our user's database. So if we run it now and we scroll all the way to the right, we're going to see phone number with integer is now created. Oh, and there's an issue with that. So let's actually downgrade it one more time. It's currently an integer, and we want this to be a string. So let's go back down and redo our downgrade -1. Let's go back into here and say, hey, we want this to be a string, not an integer. And now let's go back into our terminal and say, hey, let's upgrade back to our original revision. If we now go back to our Postgres and we click run, we can see that phone number is now a string. And what's powerful about that is now a user can type in a whole bunch of numbers, as phone numbers differ between countries and everywhere. It's not as simple as just a area code. So with making it a string, we could add code in the future to, to really, regex or something to really narrow down what a user can type in for a phone number, but we're not going to, as this is just a demonstration application. This is awesome stuff, as we currently revisioned our phone number multiple different times. We upgraded it, we downgraded it, we changed it and edited it, and then we revisioned it and upgraded it again. So this is awesome stuff. And this is showing you the power of Alembic as we are modifying a database real time. Now, this is a simple example of us just creating a new column, and we'll keep messing with Alembic and start doing a little bit more advanced stuff in the future lectures. But for now, this wraps up everything I wanted to show in this lecture, and I will see you in the next video.